Once there was a powerful and proud male lion who ruled the savannah. As the years went by, his body grew weaker, his teeth fell out, and his claws became dull. When he could no longer protect his territory, his pride forced him out. He wandered alone through the wide grasslands, living in hunger and loneliness. In his final days, he could only hunt small animals or wait for lucky chances. One early morning, he found a young deer shivering in the golden grass. Slowly and quietly, he crept forward, each step as gentle as the wind. He waited for the right moment, then used all his remaining strength to leap at the deer. The deer cried out in pain, its scream echoing through the quiet morning mist. Suddenly, a group of adult deer appeared at the edge of the forest, their eyes full of anger. They didn't run. Instead, they came closer and surrounded the lion holding the deer. A male deer charged, aiming its antlers at the lion's side. The lion stumbled, roared in pain, and tried to hold on to the deer with shaking paws. Another blow to the shoulder knocked him down to the ground. The young deer stood up and ran away, and the whole herd kept attacking the lion who dared to hurt one of their own. He tried to roar again, but only a hoarse, hopeless sound came out. At last he let go of the deer and crawled away, full of pain and shame. Blood dripped from his wounds, his back was bent, and every step was heavy. Without looking back, he left the field, following the small footprints left by the deer. The mighty lion had been beaten by the animals he once hunted. The sun rose high as the lion walked aimlessly through the dry lands. He didn't know he was getting close to the small town of Loxton, where people lived. Suddenly, the quiet street turned chaotic as a thin lion appeared in the middle of the road. People panicked and ran, but some young men just stood and stared, their faces curious. The wild look was gone. Only a confused mane and slow, tired steps remained. Every now and then, the lion looked up, his eyes empty like he was searching for a way out. The crowd watched in silence, scared and amazed by the sight of this dying legend. He stopped in front of a pet shop which had pictures of dogs, cats, and small animals on the windows. With a soft growl, the lion walked inside, his claws scratching lightly on the cold tile floor. A girl named Mira, who was waiting for her cat's checkup, screamed when she saw the lion enter. The two workers behind the counter, Daniel and his assistant, stood frozen for a moment. Daniel quickly calmed down and motioned for Mira to step back. She tiptoed to the back room, leaving space for the lion and the staff. Daniel pointed and shouted, his voice shaking, but he didn't dare approach the animal. The assistant called the forest rangers. Her hands shook as she dialed, eyes locked on the lion. The lion sat heavily on the carpet, panting, his tongue out, completely exhausted. Everyone escaped through the back door, which was locked from the outside for safety. Now the old lion was alone in the room, his eyes sometimes glancing at the pictures of pets. He no longer had the energy to growl. He just panted and slowly closed his eyes. Outside, a crowd had gathered, waiting anxiously for the rangers to arrive. A horn sounded, and 3 rangers entered, led by Thabo, an experienced veteran. Thabo looked at the lion with pity, not fear or judgment. He didn't order the use of a tranquilizer, only a net, because the lion was too weak to fight. The net wrapped around the lion, who only struggled a little before giving up. They placed him in a metal cage at the back of the truck, and the crowd clapped as it drove away. The truck headed south toward the Shamwari Wildlife Reserve, a sanctuary for endangered animals. Thabo sat beside the cage, never taking his eyes off the lion curled inside. When they arrived, the vet team was already preparing the operating room and tools. They put the lion on the table, gave him mild sedation, and began a full exam. The head vet shook his head when he saw the lion's teeth. Almost none were still whole. His jaw pushed forward, his gums were swollen, and it was clear he hadn't eaten in days. His body was thin, his fur was messy, and the wound from the deer still bled. They did an ultrasound, took blood samples, and gave him fluids that night. Thabo stood outside the glass room, watching through the door, holding his hat tightly. After a few hours, the doctor said, "He's too old. He can't survive in the wild anymore." Another doctor whispered, "Maybe that's why he came looking for people." Everyone went silent, feeling something deep and unspoken. They gave more medicine, cleaned the wounds, and stitched the cuts. The medical staff placed a thick blanket over his body and turned on a heat lamp. Beneath the rough fur still beat the heart of a former king. Soon after, the rangers met with the Shamwari Reserve management. They all agreed. Don't send him back into the wild. Let him live the rest of his life safely. They built a large, warm shelter with cameras to monitor him 24/7. They named the lion Kwasi, which means brave one in the local language. Kwasi was checked daily and fed soft food that he could chew with his weak jaw. The rangers took turns caring for him and talked to him like an old friend. Thabo visited often, always bringing a neatly folded cloth with him. Kwasi rarely left the corner of his shelter and only lifted his head when he heard familiar voices. He no longer roared but lived out his final days quietly, no longer alone. Each day was a peaceful one, spent among people, not in fear or hunger. One early morning, Kwasi didn't wake up like usual. The sunlight shone gently on his still body. Thabo was silent when he saw it. He bowed his head and whispered a final goodbye. They buried Kwasi under a large tree in the sanctuary, a calm spot in the golden grasslands. On the small stone was written, Kwasi, once a king, died in the arms of humans. And so the story of the old lion seeking kindness is still told in Loxton. Dear friend, thank you for taking the time to watch the whole story. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel to support our work. See you in the next episode.